Hey guys, what's up? It's Samantha, and I am sitting down to do my plan with me for the week of May 4th through the 10th, and once again, I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I read during this week while you watch me put down stickers for everything that happened. This week was a very chill week. I basically just listened to audiobooks, I read, I did my puzzle, I chilled out. Nothing wild and crazy at all. It was basically the same thing every day. So I am using a Scribble Prints Co. kit. I think this one is called Her Day. This is a Mother's Day themed kit. This was the week of Mother's Day. And yeah, that's really all there is to talk about that happened this week because nothing else happened. I do think at some point in June, I'm going to start doing 2 separate videos, doing my normal plan with me, and then maybe doing another video where I talk about the books that I read each week, because I read so many books that whenever I try to sit down to do a monthly wrap up, it is nearly impossible. I read 20 plus books every month, and it just gets to be very tedious. And I don't know that anyone really wants to sit and listen to an hour-long video of me talking about all the books I read. Plus, it just gets to be overwhelming. I'd rather do shorter videos and just talk about, 4 or 5 books every week. So that's something I'm bouncing around in my head. No promises. I might just keep doing it this way. I don't know. I might try it a couple of weeks. We'll see what happens. But I did keep this week very simple. Well, you'll notice as I'm putting stuff down, I kept this white space. I pulled in a ton of gold foil stickers. I just kept it very minimal in terms of using labels and half boxes and that sort of thing. And I ended up pulling in a ton of scripts. I did try using a gold pen for like the 5 things I didn't have a script for, but I don't know that I would do that again. I'm so used to writing with very skinny pens that writing with a big fat jelly roll pen felt very, very messy. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the books that I read this week. So I read 6 books. I thought I read 5 books. I read 6 books this week. So I'm going to group 3 of them together, and those are the 3 Dresden Files books that I read, because especially once you get past the first couple books in a series, I don't want to talk too much about what's going on because I don't want to spoil them for anyone who is interested in reading the series. So I read Grave Peril, and all of them are by Jim Butcher. So Grave Peril, which I gave a 3.75, Summer Night, which I also gave a 3.75, and then Death Masks, which I gave 4 stars. So basically the first 2 books in this series are very much like Murder of the Week style books. And then as we get into the series, things that happen, especially starting in the 3rd book, carry over, and there's a lot of impact from those things. And as the series goes on, less and less is resolved each book, if that makes sense. Like there's usually still something that happens, or a case or a murder or some weird, phenomenon that happens that gets Harry Dresden brought into a case. And as the series has gone on, I've noticed that these cases, maybe all of the loose ends aren't tied up at the end of the book. Maybe it's related to something else that's going on with the politics between different groups of people in the supernatural world, or maybe, they find out the person who committed the murder, but maybe they were just like a cat's paw for another bigger dark force. And it's sort of, this world really expands a lot, and there's still some of that, solving the crime, private investigator, police work that happens. But all 3 of these books just continued to expand the universe and the world and these characters. And I will say in the 3rd book, my 2 favorite characters, Thomas and Michael Carpenter, are introduced, and they're my faves. I love them so very much. The Carpenter family as a whole, I just really, really love. There's still, every once in a while, you'll get some men writing women moments, some kind of ick moments. But overall, the writing seems a lot more self-aware about Harry's chauvinistic tendencies than it was in the first 2 books, and it's very much acknowledged as a flaw of Harry's, and not sort of like a patting him on the back for being such a nice guy kind of thing. He's taken to task for his behavior by basically every other character in the books, and it just makes it a lot more... It makes Harry as a character more enjoyable to me, because obviously he's flawed, but like he's starting to recognize his flaws, and other people aren't acting like he's some like white knight hero. They're like, Harry's got some serious issues, and they'll call him out on it. So I am overall really loving this series. I think I'm on book 10 right now. They're all kind of starting to not like run together, but as the politics have gotten bigger and plot lines aren't ending at the end of every book, things are carrying over from book to book. And I've read them all so close together that it's all just kind of turning into one giant story for me at this point, whereas the first few are very discrete, like beginning, middle, end, beginning, middle, end. Now it's just sort of, there's a bigger, larger plot and mystery happening, and I'm really appreciating that as these books go on. Then the next book I read is a YA contemporary that I had an arc of, so I read it before publication date, and that is 4 Days of You and Me by Miranda Kenneally. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce her name, but I gave this 3 stars, and for me, like a YA contemporary romance that's 3 stars means it's solid, it's good, it maybe didn't do anything new and inventive, but it was cute, and it's something that I would definitely recommend to teens at my library. So this was, like I said, cute, fluffy, like the perfect pool, beach, vacation read to recommend to a teen. And it's like the premise is that it checks in on this same couple on the same day, I think May 7th, all 4 years of high school. And this is always the day that they're going on their school field trip. And it checks in on these two, the main characters, Lulu and Alex, as they're sort of like arch nemeses, and then they become like boyfriend, girlfriend, and then they're just friends, and how their relationship evolves through high school. And you get these little vignettes interspersed that sort of explain what happened throughout the rest of the school year, but it mostly focuses the bulk of the action on what happens on their school field trips. It was just really cute, super adorable, and I really appreciated. This is to me what a sex positive YA story actually looks like after the best laid plans that I ranted about in my previous video, which billed itself as a sex positive like teen romance book. This is actually what I think a sex positive book looks like for teens. It shows Lulu and Alex having healthy conversations around wants, needs, boundaries in all areas of their relationship. And sex is always talked about as a mutually enjoyable act, and it's not something that Lulu is giving to Alex. It's something that they both want to do, and they're both getting enjoyment from, and I think that's really important. And I think that when YA books continue to propagate the idea that only boys want sex, or that sex is going to be painful for girls or stuff like that, it just, I don't know. As someone I'm okay with sex being in YA books, but I think it should serve a purpose, and this models how to have healthy conversations around sex and relationship needs and like boundaries within relationships. And I really appreciated that. So that's like my adult reading YA tangent. I really liked how this modeled how to have those conversations. So the next book I read was kind of a disappointment, and this is Dragonflight by McCaffrey. I gave this 2 stars. So part of this is I never read McCaffrey as a kid, at least I don't think I did. And I don't have any nostalgia for these. And so reading it now as an adult with, what I know now, it feels very, very dated and not in a way that I can enjoy. Lessa, who's the main character, pushes boundaries within her society, but the society is so patriarchal and so sexist that I couldn't move past. Like, she's pushed into this really abusive, physically and sexually abusive relationship, and this romantic relationship with Fleur, who's sort of the other main character, who actually I would argue is the main character. We spend more time in his head, I think, than we do Lessa's, which threw me because I thought Lessa was supposed to be the main character. But Fleur rapes Lessa, so like trigger warning. And the tone isn't that he shouldn't have done that. The tone is like, once she relaxes and just like learns to enjoy my excellent lovemaking, she'll have more fun. Like, she just needs to sit back and let me continue to rape her. And I did not like that. And I found the whole thing really just gross and icky. And he hits her a lot. And it's just, you get the idea that the author's still cheering on this relationship. And I did not like it at all. Another thing, like, the relationship is what soured the book the most for me, but and Fleur as a character, because you're in his head a lot, and he's just an angry, like, dickhead, but I kind of have discovered I like my fantasy and my sci-fi separate, so I like dragons, and I like the other element of the story that I'm not going to spoil, but I don't like those two elements together, and yeah, it just didn't really work for me. I mean, there were some things I liked. I liked the sort of funny, subtle nods to our modern culture, because this idea is that this is taking place on another planet where there are dragons and humans got there, but they've sort of forgotten that humans came from Earth and all this, you know, there's a whole bunch of lore in this world, which I was actually pretty interested in the lore, but there's some nods to modern day human culture where they're reading old texts and trying to decipher what words mean, and they're, you know, words that the reader knows what it means, but they're trying to figure out what it means. And there's a lot of humor in those scenes and things that you know what it is, but they don't know what it is. And I appreciated that. And some of that actually did make me laugh out loud. And like I said, I was very interested in the lore, and there is this kind of continual reframing of the lore as Lessa discovers more and more throughout the story. And I thought that was done, like, really well. I thought it was pretty cool. And honestly, I wish there had been more lore and less, like, ritualistic, creepy, rapey sex involving dragons. So this was just like a no for me. I gave it a 2-star. I appreciate what this was historically. Elements of this were what won McCaffrey. She was the first woman to win both a Hugo and a Nebula Award. Those were the two that she won, right? Right. I'm like doing this off the top of my head. So I appreciate what this is from a historical standpoint, but reading it as a modern female reader didn't feel like it held up. And I don't know that I'd want to return to this world, so I probably will not. And then the last book I read was also an ARC, and this was A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. This is her new adult fantasy. I believe it's going to be a trilogy. I think I read that somewhere. And I would say this is adult. It's published by an adult imprint. It's marketed on NetGalley as an adult ARC, but it is definitely has crossover appeal. This is what I would say, it's like Harry Potter if everyone was a Slytherin and Hogwarts was trying to kill all of its students. So the concept was really cool, and once the characters actually started interacting on page, I really liked it, but this was weighed down by so much info dumping and exposition that I really struggled to get through, and it didn't fully, that element of the book didn't really go away. Even into the last chapter of the book, we were getting paragraphs of exposition and info dumping, and it was just too much. There was too much telling and not enough showing, and the main character, Elle, basically just talks at everyone the entire time, and not talks at everyone, talks at the reader the entire time, and is constantly stopping. Like, there'll be something interesting is actually happening, and then she stops to give you like an anecdote about her childhood or tell you about enclave politics outside of the school. And in this magical world, the school is completely cut off from the outside world. So kids are dumped at the school and they stay there for 4 years. And then in order to graduate, they have to fight their way out of this like hall of monsters. And the school is like not safe at all, and normally a huge percentage of each class dies every year, but there's sort of this Harry Potter-esque like kid with a savior complex who's saved a disproportionate amount of students at the school, and the school is hungry and the school is angry, and the monsters are getting stronger, and the bigger, badder monsters that normally hang out in the graduation hall are starting to like work their way into the school, which is a really cool concept. And when that actually comes into play, it's super duper cool. But I still overall liked it. I think this has a lot of potential. Towards the end, as we actually started to see more and more character interactions, I enjoyed this a lot more. But I really feel like a lot of the stuff that was info dumped to us could have been shown to us or included in a conversation about like something that Elle was having with another student or something she was overhearing. It just was really unnatural. It felt like I was almost reading like an instruction manual for this world during parts, or like an informational text about this world, and there wasn't a lot of plot or character development until the very end. And I feel so conflicted because there were elements of this that were really cool, and the world is really cool, and the concept is really cool. And once the characters start going, it's really cool, but it lacked what I expected from Naomi Novik. And that's another element. The writing feels nothing. If you like Naomi Novik because you like her really lyrical prose and kind of fairy tale-esque storytelling, I almost struggle to believe that Naomi Novik wrote this. The writing is very jarring. It's not lyrical. It doesn't feel anything like her other, her more well-known works that have had a lot of notoriety in the last couple of years. But I still think it's enjoyable. There's a lot of gray morality in here, and it is very, very dark. I will give it that, and I enjoyed that aspect of it. So I'm interested to see what the rest of this series does, because I still gave it like a 3.75. I thought it was pretty good. I mean, it was a good book. It just wasn't what I expect from Naomi Novik. And I think now that we have a lot of the information, hopefully it's less info dumpy in the next couple books. A lot of the information didn't even come into play yet. And some of it, I wonder if it could have been better edited to have certain information maybe withheld and shared in later books, because some of it was like, why are you telling me about the complexities of the politics in Singapore or Shanghai? It was some like enclave, and I'm like, why are you spending 5 pages telling me about this? Like, this isn't relevant right now. And I don't know, I got that feeling through a lot of it that it could have been, the world building could have been less info dumpy. So that was everything I read this week. I can't believe I read 6 books this week, and this is why I can't do like a single wrap up for a whole month, because I'd be literally talking for forever. It's hard enough for me to kind of fit this into about 20-minute video for 1 week of books. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed, and I will talk to you in my next one. Bye guys.